Good evening. Welcome to the Diaspora Perspective Show on Voice of the People Television, VOP. Now, join us for an exciting discussion live every Saturday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. as we bring you latest news and insights from home and abroad. I am Chukwuma Okoro, and on Diaspora Perspectives, we discuss different political, governance, economic, and development issues in Nigeria, more like an exchange of ideas with Nigerians in the diaspora to see how we can build a stable Nigeria. We encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our page. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. By the way, we are broadcasting live on Metro SL TV, channel 264. You can also be a part of this conversation. It's an interactive conversation. You can call in or send WhatsApp messages to the numbers showing on your screen. The number is 0904 473 2605. Today, Bill to Jail Non-Voters passes second reading in the House of Representatives. And away from that, APC, PDP, LP, Peter Obi in coalition against Tinubu. Now, this is a revelation made by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. And when we are done with that, called to deliver judgment on Natasha's suspension on June 27, 2025. By then, Natasha will have served 4 months of a 6-month suspension. And Nigerians are wondering, why the delay in giving judgment to a case of suspension? Someone was suspended for 6 months, and the court case has lingered up until the 4th month. What is the color of justice in Nigeria? Oh, well, joining me to make sense of these stories are the Flagship. The Flagship is a clinical research operations lead and business entrepreneur based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States of America. Good evening to you, Flagship, and thanks for coming to Political Lens. Good evening, Sho. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Very well. Good evening. Good evening, Sho. Okay, Sho joins us from Kent in the United Kingdom. He is an IT expert with interest in international relations and strategic politics. Flagship, good evening. Good evening to you, Flagship. Flagship, you might need to unmute your mic so that we can get your audio feed. Oh, well, we kick off the show with Sho. Well, the show with Sho that joined us from Kent, United Kingdom. But before we get into the major stories, there are also other trending stories within the polity. And one of them is that the Pope invited Tinubu to join world leaders at his inauguration. President Bola Tinubu attended the inauguration of Pope Leo XIV in Rome, Italy, at the Pope's invitation. While he was accompanied by top Catholic leaders, including archbishops and bishops from Nigeria, the Pope, who previously worked in Nigeria, emphasized the importance of Tinubu's presence amid global tensions and conflicts. Sure, let me come to you on this. This is an interesting story that is trending. Well, because the Pope invited Nigeria's president for his inauguration, and Nigerians are wondering, why single out Nigeria? Is it simply because the Pope at some point worked in the Archdiocese of Lagos? Some people are saying probably because Nigeria is a country of interest. Because of insecurity? Is it because of insecurity? Is it because of religious problems? Or is it because of economic decline? You live there in the UK, you live in Europe, and I don't know if you were at the Pope's inauguration, by the way. So if you were there, did you shake hands with the Pope and with our president? So can you help us understand why Nigeria has become a country of interest, that the Pope had to single out our president? I know that he invited other presidents too, but why the special emphasis on Nigeria? Like I said, we understand that at some point, the Pope worked for the Archdiocese of Lagos. But beyond that, is Nigeria a country of interest to the Vatican? And why so?
Okay. Good evening once again, Chukwuma. Good to be with you, and good evening to your viewers from across the globe. Right. So I saw that the Pope invited President Tinubu for the inauguration. Well, like you rightly stated, it's possible because the Pope at one time served in Nigeria. I think he served in Lagos. Like you said, I think I read that he also served in Nasarawa, in some capacity in the past. So this is somebody that knows Nigeria very well. He's not a stranger. So you can understand the sentiment or the bias if he singles out Nigeria's president and invites him. But I also think more than that, and I think you touched on that while you were speaking as well. Nigeria is a peculiar case because there's a website called vaticannews.va. I believe it belongs to the Vatican or run by the Vatican. Run by the Vatican. If you go on there, you would see stories about the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. So I think that might be another reason why the Pope has decided to invite President Tinubu and have a conversation with him, because as at 2023, just under 2 years ago, the last count that they had on the vaticannews.va says that over 50,000 Nigerian Christians, have been killed in Nigeria between 2009 and 2023 by Boko Haram. So this is something that, it's quite of interest to the Catholic diocese. So I think that might be one of the reasons why President Tinubu has been invited. And, on a lighter note, the Pope has roots in Chicago. He's someone who, lived in Chicago for the better part of his life. And President Tinubu at one time also went to Chicago. So maybe this is just two Chicago, old boys having, reminiscing on the old times. Who knows? Okay. But I hope that discussing, would bear fruit and would benefit Nigerians.
Okay, I'm happy that you mentioned the Chicago connection on the lighter note. You also recall that Chicago has a history, a history of bootlegging. You understand what I mean? A history of bootlegging. When you talk about Al Pacino, when you talk about what's his name again? The Chicago drug laws in the 1920s and 1917 and all of that. So these Chicago boys, does it look like they understand, the interactions, the undercurrents, of violence and all of that? I like the fact also that you talked about religious persecution. Now, let's take it further. A lot of people, were very, very jubilant when Trump became the president of America, what we call Trump 2.0, because they were of the opinion that, look, the moment Trump gets into office, that he's going to stop the persecution and killing of Nigerians, that he's going to attack Boko Haram and all of that. And I asked them, in Trump 1.0, it ran concurrently, simultaneously, contemporaneously, with the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari. And that is the time Nigeria's unity has been most tested in terms of persecution of Christians, in terms of terrorism that has maybe religious tracks and all of that. So in all of this, do you think that Trump and the Pope can do anything to rescue the Christians in Nigeria? Do you have any idea? Are there international treaties, or are there international diplomatic demarches, that could help both the Pope and Trump help the Christians in Nigeria?
I don't think they're going to stop it just by fiat and say, Tinubu, you've been told, go and fix it. I think what would happen with the Pope is he would have a conversation. Well, I hope he has a conversation with President Tinubu to see that this thing, it's not conspiracy theory. There's data to back this up, so they can speak to him and let him understand that it doesn't look good. It doesn't speak well of Nigeria as a country that is not an Islamic nation. So Christians shouldn't be persecuted. And those sort of, conversations, they would see, like I said, it's possible that their path might have crossed while it was in Chicago. I don't know, but it could just be a case of when he served in Nigeria. But I'm hoping the Pope would have conversation to let the president know that Christians need to be protected, just like everybody else in Nigeria, should be protected. In terms of President Trump, what does he stand to gain if Nigerian Christians are not killed? Because everything is transactional. That's the way I want our people to start looking at these things. What is in it for Trump if Nigerian Christians stop being killed? He doesn't gain anything. So he might not like the idea that Christians are being killed because Trump, presents himself as a Christian, he has his own Bible and all these things. So he might not particularly like the fact that Christians are being killed in Nigeria, but I doubt he would, have boots on ground to go and fix it. If an American Christian get caught up in all this nonsense, then they might have a reason to say, you know what, we're going to send people to rescue our own person. We're not paying ransom and all of that. But as long as it's black Nigerians being killed by Boko Haram, I mean, I don't understand why people think Trump is going to come and be their savior. Trump has bigger fishes to fry. He has his own problem he has to deal with. He said it many times, America first. And thank God the Nigerian president is also saying Nigeria first. Not that I believe that, but at least he's saying it, that Nigeria first. So to answer your question, I don't have any expectation that Trump will say anything. I don't even think he would have the conversation with Tinubu, but I think the Pope would at least have that conversation to see what can we do to stem this tide.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Sure. I think I share your sentiments because I'm of the opinion too that, look, I mean, Nigerians are on their own. Trump was here before, Trump 1.0, and what happened? Nothing happened. So is there any likelihood that something is going to change? Probably not, like you just said. And I think I recall the name that I was looking for. I was looking at Al Capone. You know, you remember Al Capone, the Untouchables and all of that. So that's the name I was looking at, the Chicago rings and all of that. So, you know, Chicago is quite notorious for very many things. Unfortunately, too, in the United States of America, Chicago diocese happens to be the biggest and richest Catholic diocese in the United States. So once there are good and bad sides of Chicago. Now let's move away from that and talk about Nigerians are outraged after JAMB admitted to errors in the 2025 UTME, which affected many candidates and their performance. Now the admission follows the tragic death of a 19-year-old girl, Opesusi Faith Timilehin, who took her own life after checking her JAMB score. Unfortunately, he discovered that there were glitches and there were mistakes. Probably she didn't score as low as she got, but now she is gone. Now, JAMB Registrar Professor Ishaq Oloyede apologized and promised to reschedule exams for affected candidates. So look at what happened the other day. JAMB released results, you know, of the UTME examinations that were written. Unfortunately, there were errors in the results, and because we were told that the students' performance is quite below average, unlike what we had before. Performances have been dropping, but this one was extraordinary. The fall was precipitous. And Nigerians were wondering what happened. And questions, one thing led to the other. JAMB admitted that, look, there were errors, there were glitches. And unfortunately, it has taken the life of one innocent girl who took her own life because of her underperformance. Probably, if we go back to check her records, she might have done better than she actually was given in that score. Now, Nigerians are saying, what actually went down? I understand, and you understand how Nigerians feel about it. What lessons should we learn from this? If this kind of thing happened in the UK, where you live, what would be the reaction of the registrar? What would be the response of the registrar? I also want you to keep in mind that, look, the exam was rescheduled like just 2 or 3 days after that admission. Was that enough to pass information to thousands of candidates that had problems? 2 or 3 days? That is the question. Another question is, some people are reading some kind of ethnic bias in all of this. I don't even want to go there, you know, because these are the things that widen our fault line. Because Lagos was involved, and the whole Southeast states, the 5 states of the Southeast, was also involved. So people are saying, look, what went down? The registrar singled out the Southeast and Lagos, where a certain group of people have populations and all of that. Can you help us understand? But specifically, the talking point I want us to look at here, okay, I think the registrar did address the press. Let's listen to him and say if there are more talking points that we can get from the registrar's address.
I hold myself personally responsible including for the negligence of the service provider and I unreservedly apologize for it.
That was a remorseful JAMB registrar at a news.
All right, then, sure, you heard it. I mean, the JAMB registrar, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, has taken responsibility, you know. He couldn't even control his emotions. He had to shed tears, probably because of the impact that particular mistake will have on students and their parents and all of that. So let's have your reaction to all of that. But particularly, if this kind of thing happened in the UK where you live, what would be the action and reaction of the registrar and the authorities concerned?
Right. It's unfortunate what's happened, and I would like to start off by sending my condolence to the family of the young lady who took her own life, Timilehin, I believe that's her name. Love and strength to them. Things like this will continue to happen as long as there are no consequences. See, there's a budget for JAMB. You have a budget, you know how many students are going to write these exams. Similar to what happened during the last election where they talked about the date. Is that becoming a thing now that you have a whole year to prepare for this exam in JAM's case? Because I think they do it. I mean, we used to write it. It used to be once a year. So I'm hoping or guessing it's still once a year. So you had a full 12 months to prepare for this. So how is it possible that on your D-Day, on the day you're meant to show off, to say this is what we've done for the last 12 months, people came to write our exams, it was, seamless, it was smooth, there were no issues. If there were issues, maybe minor issues, but you had such a big glitch in their own time, in their own words, glitch. 2023 election, glitch. Nobody was sacked, no heads rolled, nothing happened. Mahmoud Yakub is still there, still parading himself, still going all over Africa, monitoring elections. So this gentleman is shown remorse, as opposed to Yakubu Mahmoud, who's just, very... Anyway, let's not talk about him. So this gentleman, Isha Koloide, has shown remorse and all of that he's sorry and all of that. But that won't bring back the life of the young lady. And we're not sure the effect this glitch has had on so many of these children, thousands of them. I'm not talking about the ones that will have failed anyway. I'm talking about the ones that actually prepared and will probably have passed. We're not sure what side, the psychological effect this will have on some of them. In fact, if they go and rewrite these exams, I'll be surprised if many of them pass, because they've been scarred. Now they're thinking, is it me? Is it, the glitch? Was it my fault? So this will play on their minds. So things like this should not be happening. What happened to, stress testing? Did they even test that they could facilitate what they promised these kids? You should have tested it. How can the whole of the Southeast just, go up in flames like that? And you're saying, the emo server or something went down. How can that happen? It should never happen. And if something like that happened, it's something that should have been picked up as soon as it happened and rectified quickly. So if it happened in the UK or in any sane environment, Isha Koloide will have tendered his resignation. That would be the start. A lot of other people will lose their jobs, and there should be a joint lawsuit by the parents of these children. They should sue JAM because they failed these children. I mean, how do you console the parents of this poor girl who took her own life because of the failure of JAM? We cannot continue to have these things. And I've seen so many institutions. I saw, is it University of Ilorin, where Professor Isha Koloide used to be their vice chancellor. People said he's a good man, he's a decent man, he's a man of integrity and all of that. And I'm not arguing that because I don't know him, so I can't speak against him being any of those things. But I saw University of Ilorin writing letters publicly, supporting him. That is very insensitive. You can support him privately. He doesn't need the public support. So University of Ilorin could have reached out to him to provide support. He's one of them. So nobody's saying they shouldn't support him, but when you start putting things like that out, how do you want the parents of these children, or the children themselves who have been let down, how do you want them to feel? And I've seen, is it Murik, this Muslim, something, these people that always come and speak, insensitive stuff. They've also written another letter in support. What are these letters for? Write it to him in a private capacity. I'm not saying the man should be hung to dry. Those who know him, those around him should provide a support system, because it could take its toll on him as well. And we don't want him to do the unthinkable as well. So, if people are saying he's a good man, he's someone that we probably need around. But I'm saying that organizations should stop this nonsense of psychophancy. What are these letters? Have you seen some of those letters they're writing? And honestly, this is not even something to joke about, because lives are involved. But I wish there was an agency called NACA, N-A-C-A, Nigerian Anti-Clapping Association, or whatever you want to call it. Any little things, Nigerians are press conferences. They cannot wait to start clapping. Why were they clapping for the man? He broke down in tears and they started clapping. What was that for?
I was just wondering. For
that. Nigerians
isn't it the support that you talked about? Some kind of support system.
Yes, he needs the support, but he doesn't need public support. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
He's a big man, he's a big boy.
Okay.
So if he gets the private support, that's all he needs. He doesn't need to be in public glare. Why were they clapping for him? And this is just an instance. I mean, go listen to anyone having a public speak in Nigeria, speaking publicly in Nigeria. They'll be talking something serious. Something very important that should trigger sober reflection, and Nigerians will start clapping. What are you clapping for? So, in a nutshell, this wouldn't happen in a sane society, and people will get away with it. It can be explained away. And 2-3 days is too little notice. I know they were saying something about, the schedule with WAEC and whatever it takes, make it happen. It doesn't have to happen on a Saturday. Anybody writing JAM would have finished their GCSEs, WAEC. So you can do it on a weekday. Give them time. It takes mental preparedness. And the nonsense that they did, that they were telling some of these kids to arrive at 6 a.m. for accreditation or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. Sounds like, like the INEC thing. The kids had to get there at 6 a.m. And JAM came out to defend themselves when Peter Obi pulled them up on it. And they said, the exam itself doesn't start until 8 o'clock. It's only the registration that starts at 6. Is it possible for someone to turn up at 8 and write the exams without registering? No. So that means they still have to get there at 6 o'clock. And we're talking about minors. And they're not writing the exams next door. So JAM needs to be reformed. I've heard that Professor Oloide is doing a wonderful job, but there's a lot of more work to be done. You can't be asking kids. They're children. They cannot travel by themselves on a plane. They're under 18, most of them. So you're telling them to come to somewhere at 6 o'clock. For you to get somewhere at 6 o'clock, that could be 2 hours, 1 hour away from your house. It means you have to be up by 4 for you to be there at 6. And for someone going to write an exam, you're asking them to wake up at 4. You've already prepared them to fail. So JAM has a lot of work to do. I've seen a lot of people say, scrap it, it's useless and all of that. I don't think it's totally useless, but it needs to be reformed. Okay. And some of these things that I see flying about, that the cutoff mark for certain areas is higher than the cutoff mark for other areas. That needs to go. It might be a gradual process, but we need, as a country, if we're going to remain together, we need to start having such conversations. We can no longer say people from the north are disadvantaged. Why? This money that President Tinubu is talking about giving the governors, is he giving less to the northern states? They should educate the children in the north. They deserve to be educated. And maybe someday we will have less of these Boko Haram boys and girls if they are well educated. So they need to educate them like the way the people in the south and the west and the east are educating their children, so that we can have a level playing field. This idea of scoring 40 and somebody in the southeast or southwest has to score 200, that needs to go.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Joe, for a very insightful talk. You have raised more talking points than I even expected. But there are a few takeaways from what you said. Number one is that, look, there are no consequences for action, so these things might just continue. But it's also good that the man in question, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, has taken responsibility for his actions and apologized. Unlike some people who committed worse offenses against Nigerians, they are still thumping their chest that, look, we made it. Until we get to a point where we have consequences for actions, I'm not sure that we are going to make progress. Thank you very much for a very incisive thought. Now, let's get into another big story now. Very big, because you live in the UK. Nigerian ministers, including Nyesom Wike and David Umahi, are heading to London for an international press conference to showcase President Bola Tinubu's administration's achievements and legacy projects. So I don't know if they have... are you aware of the press conference? Do you have an invite and all of that? If you don't have, I sure can provide one for you. Honestly, I can. Now, the event aims to present the right narrative about Nigeria's governance to international community and dispel opposition propaganda. Well, the ministers will highlight achievements in infrastructure, economy, security, and other areas, including the start of production at Nigerian refineries and local government autonomy. So I'm sure you are very much aware that we have a crop of Nigerian ministers and heads of agencies and departments coming to the UK to tell you people how beautiful Nigeria has become, how every filling station now is filled with fuel at a very low cost, how the roads in Nigeria, especially in the Federal Capital Territory, are paved with gold. There are no potholes. Nigerian hospitals are working. There is 24/7 power supply in Nigeria. So are you aware of this conference, and do you have an invite, please?
Right. I'm aware. I don't have an invite. If you send one, I'll be more than happy to attend and listen to them. Okay. It will be a waste of my time, but I'm willing to, to attend and waste time. You see, these guys are not serious, and that's putting it in a very decent way. The words that come to my head, I wouldn't use them, especially on air, because it's a waste of people's time. It's a waste of Nigeria's scarce resource. So when they talk about Orasanye report that they were going to adopt it, they spoke about this about a year ago, just over a year ago. They said they were going to adopt it. And what's the Orasanye report? Is something that every government that has come would say, oh, we'll adopt it when they're in crisis. They'll say, oh, we'll adopt this. It's all about cost cutting, I beg your pardon. So if you're saying that you're going to cut the cost of governance, in the same breath, you're sending ministers to London to go and tell Nigerians and maybe potential foreign investors that you're doing well as a government. The minute a man starts telling his wife, I am the head of this house, he's no longer the head of the house. The fact that you feel the need to send people to the UK to start reeling out your achievement, it tells me that you're not doing much. You're not achieving much. At least not yet. You might eventually, but for now, you're not doing much because some of these things don't need to be advertised. It's like a pregnancy. It can't be hidden. Eventually, it would come out. It would show. So you don't need to advertise it. If you're looking to cut the cost of governance, there are so many ways you can do this. With IT these days, with technology that we have, they have people like Bayo Nonoga. A lot of Nigerians are interested in his tweets or his post on X, not because they agree, but half of the people who read his post on X don't agree. But you can get people like Bayo Nonoga to push it out. You can get some of the willing tools like Daniel Boala to go around the chat. The man will do it gladly to go around all TV channels. He can come to yours as well and tell people, I don't live in Nigeria these days, but I watch Channels TV. I watch your channel. I watch all these other ones arise. I watch most of them every day. So they can go around and highlight and reel out everything they've done. Another thing they could have done to save money is to the Nigerian embassy in London. They have TV screens there that doesn't display anything useful. So they can have something like that as a scroll, 24/7, all your achievements with pictures and videos. A lot of Nigerians go to this place every day, unfortunately. So let them watch the things you've done. Rather than spend money, send ministers that will bring essays and SSAs and SSAs to London. Esta code. You're going to pay them in dollars when they are abroad. And we say we don't have money. They tell us to tighten our belts as citizens, that we're broke. But our leaders or our politicians don't live like they govern a poor country. So go to places like Woolwich. I don't want to mention names so it doesn't seem like an advert, but there are popular Nigerian restaurants in Woolwich. One in particular comes to mind. There's another one in Peckham comes to mind. Go to such places and negotiate with them. We're going to have like a giant, like a 100-inch TV and reel out these things for a week. We're just going to have it for a week. We'll pay you £500 per day. That's still cheap. For a week, that's what? 35,000 or whatever. You pay them, pay them 1,000 a day, they will take it.
Okay.
And reel out all your achievements. We don't need an international press conference for you to tell us what you've achieved in the last 2 years. We have families in Nigeria. They tell us what you've achieved.
Exactly. Okay.
I saw what you've achieved. I felt it.
Okay. All right. Sure. I'm happy you say you were in Nigeria some weeks ago. And the question for the optics, like what you have said, go to TV, go to restaurants and all of that, go to the embassy and display all that you have done. I wanted to ask you, but we just visited Nigeria recently. When you came back to Nigeria, or before you came back to Nigeria, I know you have folks back here in Nigeria. What stories, what impression do they give you about the state of affairs, the state of things in Nigeria? Just before you came, let's do a flashback. Before you came back, what stories, what impression did your folks back here paint to you about the state of things in Nigeria? Did they tell you that the roads are all paved or that the refineries are all working and all of that? What impression do you actually have about Nigeria before you came back?
I have siblings in Nigeria. I have some of my siblings who still live in Nigeria. And over the last 2 years, the stories have gotten worse. And these are not people who cannot feed, they are probably somewhere in the middle. So they're okay, but they can still feel it as well because they will tell you that, I also sometimes get picture. My mom would just send me a picture on WhatsApp and say, look at the okra your sister bought for 500 naira. And I would marvel. In fact, the other day she sent me a corn and said, oh, corn. I mean, we're talking about corn, agbado and cassava. She sent me a corn and she said, this was bought for me for 300 naira. She said, before you left Nigeria, this was like 5 naira. I said, I know. I used to buy it. So they've gotten worse rapidly in the last 2 years. My mom would go for an outpatient appointment at UCH Ibadan. For outpatient appointment, you have to pay to see a doctor. In 2019, I think she paid about 1,050 naira, and it has to be in cash at UCH. No electronic transaction, because of course that can be traced. So it will be in cash, and they will write you one nonsense receipt. Now, I think she says, I don't want to quote her wrong, I think it's over 3,000 naira that you have to pay to see a doctor for your outpatient appointment at UCH. There was a time, I don't know if they still do that at UCH, now that they introduced diesel fee, because you have to pay for diesel if you're having an outpatient appointment at UCH Ibadan. So things have gotten really, really, really bad. I speak to my siblings, they tell me school fees for their children, not that they're asking me for money or support, they can pay, but they're just saying school fees have almost doubled in the last 2 years. This is what my siblings told me before I went back home. And because I engage in a lot of these conversations, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, so I see things. So when I got there, I wasn't totally surprised, but I was still shocked at the level of poverty. You could almost touch the poverty. For every 10 Nigerian I saw between Ibadan and Lagos, where I spent, my holiday in Nigeria, for every 10 Nigerian you met, about 7 or 8 are poor, like really, really, really poor. And you're just thinking, I grew up here. I know things were never, rosy and all of that, but let me give you an example. So the guy who used to fix our cars, when I was in Nigeria, before I left over 20 years ago, the guy could afford to live in a 2-bed flat with his children. Even his children didn't go to public school. They went to private primary schools in Ibadan. But all of a sudden, I met that bros, and you could tell that he was struggling. He didn't have to tell me. He eventually told me, and he told me how much he needed and help and all of these things. But the mechanic, he's not somebody who is idle. He's a mechanic. But he's telling me, he said, people are not bringing their cars anymore. I have a brother who is a medical doctor, a well-known my own brother. He's a well-known medical doctor. And he was telling me, he said, a lot of people don't come to the clinic anymore because they can't afford to. They cannot pay. He said, it's not because people are not ill, but they can no longer pay. So his private clinic is there, but he hardly gets patients. So this is what is happening.
Okay.
I'm not saying you won't see a new building.
Okay.
A new shopping mall, a new club. Yes, those things are being built here and there.
Yes.
But look at the people.
Okay, look at the people. I'm happy that I asked that question because I wanted to get a feel of what information that you have. But you also visited Nigeria, and not that people told you saw these things with your own eyes. Now, if they are coming to the UK, I wonder what they are coming to tell Nigerians about flyovers that have been constructed in Abuja and all of that. How about human capital development? How about poverty? The poverty level is rising, it's increasing. Every now and then we get statistics, we get data from World Bank, from IMF, from Nigerian-owned sovereign agency, National Bureau of Statistics, telling us that by June, if nothing is done, that 137 million Nigerians will get into acute hunger and all of that.
You saw the report from UNICEF about the malnourished children.
Children, yes.
That was about a week or 2 ago from UNICEF.
So exactly the point. What are they coming to Nigeria to the UK to show
build bridges?
They build bridges and all of that. The refineries are working. Refineries that Nigerians are not working.
Collapsed.
So these are the questions that, and sure, the big question is why the UK? Does it look like it has any tie with neocolonialism, as so many people have said? Because they're always coming to Chatham House before elections and after elections. They have to come back to the UK, to tell Nigerians. Like 2 weeks ago, Daniel Bwala said, if you don't see the achievements of the president, it's either you are deaf, you are dumb, or you are blind, or the three of them. And a day, 2 or 3 days after that, Nyesom Wike repeated the same thing. So does it look like Nigerians don't see anymore that they need to come to the UK and tell the international community? Why the UK? That is the question. Do you have an idea why they are coming to UK?
Well, I don't have a concrete evidence, but obviously, we know the people who pull our strings. We are not totally free. Yes, they gave us independence. We have a new flag. had an anthem and change it again. And all of that happened in 1960 and all of that. But we're not totally free from the Western powers. And they have willing collaborators in our politicians. So they will go to Chatham House, they will go and debate and talk, even when they tell you in Nigeria that they're not going to speak to people like yourself and all other, media houses, but they'll come to Chatham House, they'll come and have conversations about what they intend to do for Nigerians. And any little thing they run to the UK. In fact, let me tell you, I won't tell you the year so that people won't work it out and start asking me questions, but I went to my brother's house in the UK a few years ago, and I saw a man there sitting on the dining table, and the table was filled with all sorts of food and everything. And, I was like, greeted him proper Yoruba way. And I was introduced to him that is the deputy governor of Ekiti State. I was like, okay, cool. I thought he was on holiday or something. Then, I was listening to their conversation, and they were discussing Ekiti Day. They came to celebrate Ekiti Day in London. You are the deputy governor. You left your people in Ekiti. You came to London to celebrate Ekiti Day. These are the sort of people we're dealing with. So, I mean, you can't even explain it. And that's why some of us say that you can't defend APC or some of these politicians, not just APC. You can't defend some of these politicians and not sound insane. How do you defend celebrating Ekiti Day in London? How much money would that have cost Ekiti State? But when they say pay teachers, you say there's no money. If they say pay this person, you start telling us there will be inflation if we pay everybody X amount of money. But it's easy and convenient to take money from the pot and bring it to London. What is Wike coming to do in London? I mean, we saw Wike's son. He takes his sons around everywhere he goes, which is not a big deal. If we had money, but as we don't have money, I think it's a big deal. So one of his sons that he takes around, Nigerians, they just decided to dig up on the son, and the boy has an Instagram account, and he had past tense, he had videos of all the places he's been, all the the private the first class view of the flight he's taking, all the fancy restaurants. He's been to East Asia, he's been to virtually every famous football ground in Europe, AC Milan, that's the San Siro. He's been to everywhere. Pictures and videos, and Nigerians are saying, wow, what does this boy do? He's a young boy. He's an undergraduate. That's Wike's son. So who's to say Wike won't bring him again when it's coming this time? Where is this money coming from? Is this from a government that is telling the people? That is the problem I have. See, if it was during the days of when, was it Gowon that was saying that we have money, the problem is how to spend it? If it was during those days that they were doing this, I can say, okay, whatever. They say we have money, people are fine. But you're telling us that we're a broke nation. But you guys are living like we have like a bottomless pit of money. I'm not sure what they're coming to do in London. Like I said, if there's a way I can get an invite, I want to ask them questions, genuine questions. Why London? I think, if I'm to guess, I think what they're coming to do, one, they will probably tell you that they want to convince potential investors. And secondly, they are getting a bit of heat from Nigerians in diaspora. So they are coming in an attempt to cool that heat. They say, these people are beginning to attack us, with maybe, I don't want to offend people in Nigeria.
Okay.
Maybe as far as they're concerned, they've captured the people in Nigeria. That's a captured group. But the ones in the Western world, they're beginning to open eyes. They're beginning to talk back at us. Let us go and, sell more propaganda. Because I can't for the life of me explain why else they are coming to London to talk to who about what.
Okay. Nigerians are asking those that live in the UK that the moment they come, tell them that you want to vote in the 2027 general elections. That they should open diaspora voting, for people, Nigerians that live outside to cast their vote. I think that would make a very big statement to politics in Nigeria. All right.
So let me tell you. Okay. Let me tell you what would happen. You would tell them that you want to vote, and they will tell you no problem. We'll make it happen. And they'll go back to Nigeria. Nothing will happen. They won't argue with you. They will say yes, we are working on it. They will tell you that even yesterday I spoke to, and they won't mention any name. I spoke to this. We're working on it. It's been debated in the House. They will give you one post-dated check and disappear back to Nigeria. Also,
okay.
Sorry, let me speak on this diaspora voting.
No, go ahead.
I like the idea. The logistics of it, I don't know how it would work, because I think someone said we should go to Nigerian embassy. That won't work. Even to go and renew your passport there, where you don't have every Nigerian going at the same day to vote, you see the queues, like 200 people on the queue every day. So imagine every Nigerian in the UK, and we have only one embassy in London. So people from Scotland, people from Wales, Nigerians from Newcastle, Liverpool, Manchester will come to London. It won't work. And secondly, when we talk diaspora voting, please, let us remember, and I'm not saying we shouldn't push for it. Let's remember it's not just going to be us in the UK, US, Canada that would vote. Nigerians in Niger Republic would vote. Nigerians in Chad and Mali would vote. Don't be surprised if they tell you that they have 5 million votes from these few countries. And somebody in Canada will tell you, I can't miss my shift. I'm not going to vote anywhere. Somebody in London will say, my Japa money, I'm still repaying the loan. I can't go and vote. And they will bring 5 million votes from Chad, Niger, and Burkina Faso and all these places. So let's think all of this when we're discussing it.
All right, and thank you very much, Sho. This has been quite very, very incisive and all of that. Now, we'll go for a short break. When we return, 2027 in sight, Atiku unveils plan to unite opposition against Tinubu. Join us again.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more.
Join me on Sundays every 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People TV.
Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, this is the After's Perspective Show on Voice of the People Television. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has announced plans to form a broad political alliance with major parties, including the All Progressives Congress, APC, that's the ruling party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Labour Party to challenge President Bola Tinubu's administration, which he described as incompetent and inefficient. Atiku criticized government's handling of security issues, citing the rise of Boko Haram during his time in office and how strong leadership helped suppress the insurgency. Atiku proposed recruiting unemployed graduates into the police force to address the country's security manpower gap and emphasized the need for a united political front to challenge the current administration. A delegation of stakeholders from Kogi East Senatorial Zone, led by former Deputy Governor Simon Achoba, echoed Atiku's concerns, decrying the surge in violence and kidnappings in the north and accusing the federal government of neglecting its constitutional duty to safeguard citizens' lives and property. Well, we still have with us Sho. Sho joined us from the Kent, United Kingdom. Good to have you back, Sho, and thanks for staying with us.
Thank you.
All right. Now, there's a big story here that Atiku Abubakar says that, look, some elements within the All Progressive Congress, APC, that's the ruling party, are in concert with me and the PDP and the Labour Party, and we have a coalition with which we want to use to take power away from APC and Bola Tinubu in 2027. So, do you think that what do you think that Atiku is aiming at? Is it trying to reenact what happened to the PDP in 2011, 12, 13, where we had the new PDP and the APC that formed an alliance between it, that is the ACN, the CPC, and the ANPP, and now took a chunk of that PDP to form the APC that took power from Goodluck Jonathan in 2015. Do you see a reenactment of that particular event in 2027?
Right. Yes and no. I said yes because Atiku was a key player in the emergence of Buhari. You know, he worked with APC despite the fact that he was a PDP member. So Atiku knows what they did. He doesn't have amnesia. So he remembers. He can sort of put things together to say, you know what, in 2014 leading up to 2015 election, these are the things we did. These are the steps we took in order to form this coalition. So I say yes, because they can do the coalition. They can come together. They can, you know, do this planning and all of that. I say no, not because I'm a defeatist or, I'm pessimistic. I just worry because this time they're not dealing with Goodluck Jonathan, who said remaining in office is not worth the blood of a single Nigerian. They're dealing with a totally different person. They're dealing with Tinubu. Tinubu is about winning. They call him the master strategist. His supporters are happy. Governance is secondary to them. So for them, as long as they win, they're happy. It's like, it's almost like, to them, it's like playing games. I won, you lost. But what they forget is this involves people's lives, future, generations. So I'm hoping that if they can come to an agreement about this coalition, that they do it quick because they don't have a lot of time. 2027 is around the corner. So if they're going to form this coalition, they need to quickly discuss these things, decide on who is going to spearhead this so that they won't start discussing primaries and they're having primaries and having issues. And of course, once you start having primaries that is open to everybody, then you start opening doors for the opposition, your opponents, APC, to start planting moles. That's when you now start seeing somebody who nobody knows would now start buying tickets. It will be sponsored and there'll be money shared to delegates. So if they're going to do this, they need to do it quickly, agree on who is going to be the arrowhead.
Okay, sure. I like the fact that you got to this point. Now, that seems to be the problem. Nigerians are asking who in all of this is going to flag the flag for that coalition, to fly the flag. They are asking, is it Atiku Abubakar, who has been in and out of PDP and APC? Is it Peter Obi, who has been in and out of Labour Party and, PDP, ABGA and Labour Party? Is it El-Rufai, who some people believe strongly is still working for the president? Now, that's the big question. Who is going to fly the flag? Nigerians are asking, do we trust Atiku enough?
So these are the conversations that they need to have. And also, if you look at it, Atiku running will be going against the grain because we have this gentleman agreement that, power should remain in the South, at least for another 4 years until 2031. So if Atiku is presented, there will be a lot of Southerners who naturally would just say, you know what, I would abstain from this election. I'm not going to vote because how can you tell me to vote for a Northerner when Buhari did his 8 years, Tinubu's only done 4 years? As much as I don't like Tinubu, I don't want to vote for him, but I'll just stay away from this election completely. That might happen. So that is why I'm thinking Atiku should think about it carefully. Otherwise, he's going to play the role of a spoiler. There's no point Atiku saying he wants to contest. I know, it's probably his lifelong ambition to be Nigeria's president, but I think that ship has sailed. He needs to let it go. He needs to support a candidate from the South that is popular. And there's no other person than Peter Obi.
Exactly the point. Sure. Now, people are asking.
Peter Obi.
Okay, he needs to support Peter Obi. Now, the problem is this. I like the fact that you mentioned about the gentleman agreement of 8 years North, 8 years South. Now, the South is done only 4 years in this dispensation. By 2027, Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be only 4 years in office. Now, the question is, if you bring it down to the South and you hand it over to Peter Obi, is it not trusting of Peter Obi enough to let him in and think that he will do 4 years and take back power to the North? Is there a possibility? So isn't that also, the system is already rigged against Peter Obi in that aspect?
Well, what needs to happen is conversations needs to happen. And if people will put Nigeria before themselves, I don't think it's the most difficult conversation to have. So for someone like Peter Obi, for instance, if there's a possibility that this coalition will get him into office, he can do 4 years, at least stop the rot. He might not be able to take us back 180 degrees to where we need to be going, but at least he can halt this free fall. And if you're having this sort of, coalition and all of this, these are you can say, okay, Peter, as you know, Tinubu is done 4, you're only going to do 4. After your 4, this is the guy from the North that will push. Peter Obi might say, you know what, no, I'm happy to do 4, but if I'm going to do 4, I prefer this guy from the North to carry on after me. Well, it's about trading. It's about negotiation. He can say, I believe this guy will continue my footprint. This guy will continue, in the track that I've run. I mean, imagine if they go and bring somebody from the north that is just going to go back to the status quo. The 4 years of Peter Obi will be wasted, similar to what people are accusing him of in Anambra State. So Peter Obi could do 4 years and start the good reforms and all of that. But somebody from the north, from this same coalition, comes and just starts dashing money everywhere, stealing money and siphoning money. So Peter Obi can put his foot down to say, you know what, for the sake of Nigeria, yes, I'll do 4 years. But when I'm done, this is the person I think should continue. They can have such conversations. They are good northerners. We don't know all of them. They are being hidden. It's the bad ones that stuff dollars that we see. There are good people everywhere. You can't tell me the whole of the northern Nigeria, not central. You're telling me we can't find a decent, trustworthy northerner. Of course we can. And if Peter Obi doesn't know any northerner that he can trust with power that will continue in his footsteps, then I don't even want to vote for him. Peter Obi should know 1 or 2 people from the north to say, you know what, this is the person I would recommend to Nigerians. By the time I'm done with my 4 years, when people see what I've done and situation demands that I have to step aside, I will now tell them this guy is the one you should vote for. Let's stop this idea of he has to be somebody popular, he has to be somebody people know. Nigerians want to live soft life. They want a good life. They want electricity. They want road. They don't care what the person's name is. They don't care where the person is from. They just want somebody who's going to say we can have electricity, not the one that is telling us we need $10 billion for the next 20 years. Bayo Adelabu, as Minister for Power, is practically told us we're never going to have steady electricity in Nigeria because what is demanding, he's saying we need $10 billion every year for the next 20 years for us to have stable electricity. That's not going to happen.
Okay. Sure. I want us to walk back to something that you just said a few minutes ago.
Right.
You said that 2015 or 2027 we have 2 different people between 2015 and 2027. More like Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not Goodluck Jonathan.
He's not.
This one is a strategist and he's already started work. Nigerians know, everybody, if you walk the streets of where my studio is now, we have door-to-door campaign for B80 for Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027. So work is in progress, it's already started. Now, what do you think that Nigerians can do? Because this issue, is it between Tinubu and Atiku, Obi and who? Or is it between Nigerians and their leaders? What can Nigerians do? Because more like when we talk about capture, they say the National Assembly is already captured, the executive is captured, judiciary is captured, and all of that. So Nigerians captured too. What should Nigerians do to dismantle this rascality? It should be about the people and not about these leaders. Nigerians should be the one to say, this is the leader we want, and not the leaders to say, it is my turn to lead you. What do you think that Nigerians, if in the UK, how do you get people elected into office? Do people take turns to say it is my turn, or is it the people that say, look, this is the person that we want? What can Nigerians do?
Well, I think some of the things we can do are already being done, because I see a lot of people now talking about electoral reforms. We want some things to be mandatory, not, oh, you can if you want to, you can send the result electronically if you want to. It shouldn't be optional. It should be mandatory. So Nigerians are already talking about electoral reforms. That's one thing. Another thing is, we need to disabuse the minds of people who've already given up. And sometimes I fall in that category to say, Tinubu is not going to relinquish power to anybody. He would do his 8 years and go. But sometimes I pinch myself to say, you know what? Everything has an elasticity limit. If an overwhelming number of people come out to vote, I believe it is doable. Tinubu can be defeated if a lot of people come out to vote and stand by their votes. It is possible. It is doable. So that is one of the messages we need to start pushing. And I also think one of the things that is slowing us down is there's still too many people on the side of the APC. Some of them are beginning to drop off. You see people like, I don't know how much weight he carries, how much power he wields, but people like Mr. Onokwasa, he became famous for that interview he had with another channel about a year ago or 2 years ago. And he's come back now to say he's not going to leave the APC but it's going to work against President Tinubu because the people are hungry. So when we have more people that were with APC who've now said, you know what, regardless of tribe, regardless of religion, regardless of whatever, the people around me are hungry. Even if I'm fine, everyone I know are struggling. If we have more people like that on our side, it makes the job easier. So I think we still have too many people supporting this government, regardless of what's going on. They turn a blind eye. They become propaganda tools. So once those people, once the cloak falls off their faces and they join us on this side, then we can start saying, you know what, we would vote, we would stand by our vote, we will make our vote count. P2P won Lagos. I don't think it was designed for him to win Lagos. I know some people say, oh, they left Lagos so that he can say, oh, P2P won Lagos, it wasn't rigged in Lagos, so it wasn't rigged anywhere. No, I think they were surprised. APC was surprised with what P2P did to them in Lagos. So if P2P can win Lagos, and that's because a lot of people came out and voted against APC, it can be done nationwide. I believe it is possible. I mean, like I said, it's not the first time that people will say, I'm disgruntled with the ruling party. You can be part of the ruling party and be disgruntled. And that's why you have someone like El Rufai. I know you mentioned it, and a lot of people have said he's probably still working for APC. But imagine it's not working for APC, and it's genuinely disgruntled. So you have people like that. They're saying they're not going to vote for Tinubu or support him. You have people like Onokwas are saying they're not going to do it. And there are maybe a few more that we don't know. This is the same thing that happened with the people like Saraki when PDP was in office. They left. People like Atiku, they left the PDP and went to support a new party. So it is possible. Okay. And that is why President Tinubu is very, 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 very vicious with any dissenting voice, because he knows what that can snowball into. He knows what it can lead to. Yorubas have a saying that, let me try and say it in English, those who kill by sword, they are very afraid of saying the sword just come around them because they know the danger.
I think it's an African proverb. We also have it. We also have it in Igbo land. Yes, we also have it in Igbo land. All right, thank you very much. Sure. Like I said earlier, it's an interactive conversation, and a lot of people we have comments, that are coming on YouTube. Let's just take a few of the comments before we move on. Oluboyede Mayowa says, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure here. I so much love this station. Thank you very much. Amkobi's founder says, applaud of absurdity. I think he was referring to the time people were clapping for Isha Kolowe, the way he was shedding tears. And Oluyemi Sogo said, they are wasting their time. Miko B's founder says Nigerians in UK should be on alert to drive them back home from Nigeria First policy in action. These comments are not official positions of the station. These are comments from our listeners and viewers. And Bembela says exercise in futility, Obi is going nowhere. Ibuha Imodu says Obi is too desperate to agree to do only 4 years. Okay, let's move on. We'll come back to take a few more comments. Now, sure, let's get into the second topic of conversation. Compulsory voting. Nigeria's House of Representatives take bold step. A bill mandating compulsory voting in Nigeria has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The proposed law, sponsored by Speaker Abbas Tajuddin, seeks to introduce penalties for non-voters, including a maximum of 6 months imprisonment or a fine of 100,000. While proponents argue that compulsory voting will deepen democracy, strengthen civic engagement, and reduce voter apathy. Lawmakers debated the bill, with some supporting it as a means to promote patriotism and civic responsibility, while others questioned its practicality and enforceability, citing systemic challenges and infrastructural deficits. Despite concerns, the bill was passed to the House Committee on Electoral Matters for further action, with the Speaker suggesting that compulsory voting could help restore public confidence in leadership and governance. All right, then, we still have Show with us here. Show, Nigeria's House of Representatives passed the bill. It's passed second reading, by the way, not just passed. It's scaled through second reading. Probably it's on the committee stage now. Yes, it's on the committee stage. And they are proposing that Nigerians of voting age, that is the age of 18, if you don't vote, you've committed an offense and you are liable to an imprisonment of 6 months or an option of fine. So what's your broad reaction to this? I know there are a few other countries that practice that, including in Europe. Do you think it can work in Nigeria? What is the essence of that bill? If I ask you, do you have an idea where they are coming from?
No, I don't have an idea. I'm sure if you ask them as well, they don't have an idea where they're coming from. They don't have an idea where they're going. Every time I hear from these guys or I read about what they're doing, it just tells me that I don't think they're aware of what Nigerians are going through. Because out of all the problems we have in Nigeria, they think this is the most important thing to be debating at the National Assembly. So Tajuddin Abbas and one other bloke, they've sponsored this bill and they pass second reading and all of that nonsense. I'm just trying to rationalize it. What triggered this sort of nonsense? So you want to punish anybody who is of voting age and doesn't vote? 100,000 naira. What's the minimum wage again?
70,000.
No, Chukuma, what's the minimum wage?
70,000 naira.
But they want to find somebody who does not vote 100,000 naira. So where is the person going to find the money to pay? And 6 months imprisonment or both. These guys are beyond belief. The things they come up with. I think Nigerian politicians are some of the luckiest people alive. Because how they get away with these things, I would never know. I mean, what informed this sort of bill? There are better things you could do. See, voting in Nigeria has been poorly advertised over the years. If voting has been a seamless, quiet, safe exercise, you wouldn't need to force people to vote. I vote in the UK. It's either on my way to the office or my way back from the office. I don't stop. Nothing stops. People go about their businesses. You go and vote quietly. There's nobody there shouting at you. There's no police officer holding a gun. We saw footage of police officers snatching ballot boxes in the 2023 elections. It's not made up. It's not AI. Police officers snatching ballot boxes. There was I think it was in Kwara or Kogi, there was a popular politician there that went with police escorts that were following him, and it was there. This politician probably was losing, or his party was losing. I don't know what party it belongs to, and he was carrying boxes and ripping apart all the ballot papers. This is not party specific, so it's not about attacking any particular. But the way we conduct our elections, it is not appealing to anyone. We saw people bringing out things that are meant to be sacred to the Yoruba people, to us. Oro was brought out because of some election. Don't water tradition down because of that. So some people will be scared because of this Oro thing that they did. Some people were told, if you're not going to vote for a particular candidate, don't come out. There are videos. It was like the old town criers of the past centuries, going around very early, telling people, if you're not going to vote for APC, do not come out to vote. We saw where people wanted to vote, even at the polling booth, and they were telling them, you cannot vote here. And police officers stood there, didn't do anything, didn't correct that anomaly. So how are you now telling people to risk the voting? Is you should be insured. You should have an insurance policy, life assurance, before you go and vote in Nigeria, because you might not come back home. We saw videos.
Okay, now, sure. Don't you think that they are trying to copy from countries like Australia, in Brazil, where if you don't vote, there's some form of penalty, but certainly not in prison?
Well, in Australia, Chukuma, in Australia, if you go out and vote, you have nothing to fear. In Nigeria, you have to think about it twice. The election materials won't arrive on time. You stay in the sun, you stay in the rain, you stay everywhere. You finish at 10 p.m. and at the end of the day, they will tell you there's a glitch. So why should I go and vote is the question a lot of people will be asking. Because even when I do everything, go through all these red tapes, jump through the hoops and do all these things, and I vote eventually, a lot of people feel their votes don't count.
Exactly the point. I'm sorry, sure. Now, some Nigerians are also saying this is a good way to go because, one, it's going to clear voter apathy. I mean, if you know that it is a civic obligation, not even an obligation, you must have to go and vote, because if you don't vote, there are consequences. That it will compel a lot many Nigerians to turn out, en masse, to go and cast their vote, and also ensure that they protect their votes. Now, some Nigerians are saying, the House of Representatives, I think they are being very quite thoughtful, because this is the only way. They also think that, look, that responsible people could be got into office, by elected into office and all of that. But I think you disagree with the fact that, look, they are trying to make voting compulsory.
It should be voluntary. It should be voluntary. Don't force people to vote. If you make the process easy and safe, people... Chukuma, I think us Nigerians were a special breed of people. You remember less than 3 years ago when people were looking for their PVCs, to collect their PVCs to vote. Did you see the shege people saw just to collect their permanent voter's card to vote? The card is like your voting card. People went through hell and high water to get those cards. It should be easy to collect. So you would do that, go through the struggle to get the permanent voter's card. You would get it. You'll be threatened at the polling station, at the polling unit to say, if you're not going to vote for my candidate, don't come out. People had to resort to self-help. They were saying they're going to bring out their dogs so that thugs won't attack them. And guess who came up? The Nigerian police with some, whatever. They went, I think maybe our constitution or whatever, the police act saying that you're not allowed to bring dogs to the polling center. But people said they were going to bring dogs to protect themselves from thugs. But the police ignored that first part. All they started saying on Twitter was that you're not allowed to bring dogs. So people don't feel safe when it comes to going to vote. That is why people don't. If voting was only going to take me like an hour or two, because it's Nigeria, because ideally voting shouldn't take you more than 10-15 minutes. Go there, vote and go. Well, let's even say it's going to take me 2-3 hours, but it's safe. I'm not expecting a party atmosphere. I'm not saying let's have a jamboree, but I want to go there, join the queue, vote, and go home, and my vote will count. You won't have to advertise it. People would naturally go and vote, especially if they know that their vote counts and the people that they elect into office are answerable to them. Because that's what happened in sane climes. So that if I vote for you today, and over the next 4 years, you fail on our agreement, I know that I have the power with my vote to vote you out next time. You will do the right things. But as you can see in Nigeria, these politicians don't care. They are voted in by APC. Then tomorrow they wake up and say they are PDP. The ones in Delta State or wherever, was it Edo State, Delta State, they were voted in by PDP supporters. And all of a sudden, everybody, the governor, the deputy governor, commissioners, everybody, they just said we're going to APC. Did they consult the people that voted for them? Of course, they will tell you they did, but they didn't. So this is why I'm saying that all this trying to criminalize it, it would cause more voter apathy. Nigerians don't have 100K to pay anybody. They don't have 100,000. Minimum wage is 70,000.
Okay. Now, a couple of Nigerians are saying that, look, more like it's already a done deal, that for it to have scaled through first and second reading and is on the committee stage now, that this bill is as good as passed. Now, they also cite the instance of the Cybercrime Act, which was signed into law the other day. And Nigerians are asking, assuming this bill is now passed in the House of Representatives, Senate, and it is signed into law, statistics tells us that about 90 million Nigerians are registered to vote. And out of that, only 27% voted. Let us take it for granted that 40% will vote. Now, what happens to the other remaining 60% of the 90 million? Do they have correctional centers to keep all of these people? Because how many people will have the 100,000
Exactly what I was going to tell you. So the people who don't vote, what are you going to do to them? They don't have 100,000. They don't, because you've not paid them well enough. They're struggling. There are people who are struggling. So they don't have 100,000 to pay you. So this 6 months imprisonment, where are you going to put these people? You don't have correctional centers enough for that many people. See, what would happen is they will pass this thing into law. They will now tell you in 2027, God forbid, that President Tinubu won and he had 30 million votes. It sounds nicer than how many did he have this time? Was it 9, 10, 12? Whatever he had. It would sound nicer in 2027 if they come out and say the APC won and they scored 40 million votes. It sounds nice. If I was the president, I would prefer that than to say I won by 9 million. All the total votes I had was 9 million. That doesn't sound good in a country of 200 million people. So if you say 40 million people voted for me, that's a fifth of the population. That's not too bad.
All right. All right. Let's take more comments before we move on to the third topic of conversation. And Amico Beast founder says, is it time for campaign? APC has started too early against the Electoral Act provision. Well, this is your opinion, not that of us. At Bembela says, exercise in futility, Obi is going nowhere. And Bemse and Daddy say, Peter will be with Dan Kwambo, former governor of Gombe State, and Nigeria will have great continuity. And Ambiko B's founder says, at Bembela, Tinubu for second and third term. Oluyemi Omole says, who's this Peter Obi you are talking about? Isn't he that was governor in Anambra State for 8 years without any legacy? You are just full of yourself. You are engaged in a continuous daydreaming. And he continues, only a toddler will ask, who is this Peter Obi? Okay, someone is responding. Go pick your state and chalk your places. Okay, all of that. They are completely out of touch with the economic reality in Nigeria and clueless. Okay, and all of that. And Nigeria has the most cowardly, timid press men. How come the press is not screaming to high heaven to impeach President Tinubu for violating the Constitution of Nigeria with impunity for suspending Fubara? Now, there's another talking point. He's talking about pressmen not screaming to high heavens because the president has violated the Constitution. I don't know what they expect the pressmen to do. Okay, why don't you take the National Assembly up? You expect the pressmen to go and impeach the president. Anyway, that's not going to happen because that's not a call of duty for pressmen. We'll go for a short break. Okay, sure. Do you want to respond to any of those comments?
No, that just made me laugh. When I had you read the pressman statement, I knew you were gonna, push back a bit.
Yes, I have to. I have to protect I have to protect myself and my community. Now let's go for a short break. And when we return, Natasha's suspension court to deliver judgment on June 27. Join us again.
To know the happenings in the maritime sector, join us on the program Maritime Frontiers on VOP TV as we discuss key areas in the maritime sector from aquaculture, maritime transportation, maritime labor regulation, oil and gas exploration, ferry and passenger insurance, marine pollution and prevention, port operations, and lots more.
Join me on Sundays every 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People TV.
Maritime Frontiers, exploring Nigeria's blue economy.
Now, thanks for staying with us. The Federal High Court in Abuja has fixed June 27, 2025 to deliver judgment in Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's suit challenging her suspension from the Senate. The senator was suspended for 6 months over allegations of gross misconduct following a dispute with Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Uduaghan had accused Akpabio of sexual harassment, and the court had earlier issued an interim order restraining the Senate from taking disciplinary action against her. However, the Senate still proceeded with the suspension despite the court order. The judgment will determine the fate of the senator's suspension. We still have with us Sho, who joined us from Kent, United Kingdom. Thanks very much for staying with us, Sho.
Thank you.
All right. Now, a federal high court presided over by Justice Binta Nyako has fixed June 27, to hear the suit challenging Natasha's suspension from the Senate. And by that June 27, Natasha will have spent 4 months of her 6-month suspension. What is the color of justice in Nigeria?
The color has to be Bala blue. This Natasha and Akpabio case is becoming tiring. Not the sexual abuse, because it's a big deal, and that's something that we need to shine the light on and discourage and punish anyone found guilty of such. But I just feel like it's the normal tactic. So Natasha is going to be suspended for minimum 6 months, because when they start hearing this case on the 27th of June, like you said, it will have been 4 months since our suspension kicked off. So before they come to a conclusion, before a pronouncement is made one way or the other by the judge, it will have been 6 months or over 6 months. So the intention is always to punish you before the court decides, to humiliate you before. Look at Dele Faritimi's case. The whole essence of that, locking him up, taking pictures of him while he was going to court in handcuff was to humiliate him. Those pictures are everywhere now. So if people want to torment him, not that Egmodele cares about things like that, but if people on the other side want to torment him, they would put those pictures up and say, look at him in handcuffs. So most of these things is to embarrass, is to bully. So Natasha would, the 6 months, nothing's going to happen. Look at Fubara as well. Fubara would, that 6 months would pass, nothing would happen. After 6 months, then they can decide what would happen. So with Natasha and Akpabio, I just hope that they can both get back to governance. They can both get back to legislating and speaking for their people, because some people sent them there. So with everything going on, the people are not being represented. I mean, Akpabio is filing lawsuit for contempt, and he feels like he's being mocked by the apologies that she wrote and all these things. The question I always ask is, how does this benefit Nigerians? Because Akpabio would forever be wealthy. There's no discussing that. Natasha is not a poor woman. So they're both going to be fine. But the people in their constituencies, are they going to be fine? These are the questions I ask. These are the pertinent questions. So these guys, when they just fool around and sue each other and do all this nonsense that they do, I pay little or no interest. I'm not interested in their law. Even if Natasha is found guilty, I'm told to pay. She has money. If Akpabio is found guilty, I'm told to pay. He has money. So whatever they are both doing, the court needs to decide on it quickly, bury the case, and let them both get back to governance. That's what's important.
Okay, no, that's very important. I'd like for you to help us understand in all of this. If you have this case of sexual allegation, against someone in government in the UK, how is it normally treated? Does the person stay back in office while investigation is carried on? In this case, there is actually no investigation. If it happens in the UK, what's the process, or what are the processes, for someone, who feels that he or she has been harassed? What are the processes of getting redress from the system?
Of course, you step aside. It's the decent thing to do. You step aside. It doesn't mean that you can't come back to your post. It doesn't mean that you can always come back. Once you are found not guilty, you come back, and you can even countersue the person that's wrongly accused you. But I think it's a Nigerian or African thing that we just don't know when to walk away. We cannot step down. And probably because the amount of money they spend to get to office, they need to recoup this money. I mean, I think I listened to a former senator, an elderly Yoruba man, I can't remember, is it Ogunlewe? I don't want to put the wrong name out, but he was on the TV channel about 2 months ago.
Yes,
and it was,
yes, you are right, Senator.
And it was saying how much it costs to run for these offices. Chuma, you can't run for those offices. Some people will take loans, sell property. So you can't run for those offices, and because somebody accuses you, you step down. And they know that will set the precedent. So, if the number 3 man can step down, it's only a matter of time before the number 2 man steps down when he's accused, or the president. So they would back it. And that's why you saw a lot of senators backing Akpabio, saying he's right, he's never done anything wrong. They trust him more than they trust Allah, Buddha, God, everybody. It's like a cult. They have to support one another. So in a sane climb, anywhere that, there's sanity, the right thing for Akpabio to do would have been to step down and let the investigation take place. He should be the one calling for the investigation. If someone told me that if my neighbor said I stole their car, for instance, I won't be running up and down and saying I didn't. I will just tell the police, do your investigation. Somebody opposite has a doorbell that captures whatever. I have one. So look at all these images, look at everything. Prove it that I stole it. If I didn't steal it, then I can get on with my life. So Akpabio should be the one calling for this investigation so that he can clear his name. And I'm not saying he's guilty, because I wasn't there. Of course, we see some of the habits in Nigeria, not just in the corridors of power. A lot of people do it in Nigeria. And I'm saying it, a lot of people do it. I think maybe it's cultural, maybe it's whatever that, people just feel like you can just do whatever to any female around. I was in Nigeria recently, and I was in some institutions, and I saw colleagues having conversations, banter with their female colleagues. Some of these female colleagues had engagement ring. Some of them were married, and the men, their colleagues were having banter with them. My girlfriend, can you do this for me? I was the client they were trying to help, but they were so these guys were telling some of these ladies, my girlfriend, can you help me now? You know I love you. And I'm thinking, these are small boys and small girls. But imagine people who now have power. We saw the picture of Dave Umahi with the widow of is it Ikemba?
Ikemba, Emeka Ojukwu, yes.
Yes, we saw the picture. This is a powerful woman. If Dave Umahi could be doing that where he was going to rest his hands, or you could see that she was holding his hands from, she stopped him from putting his hands on her waist. If that can happen to Mrs. Ojukwu, imagine what can happen to a Fumilayo somewhere, random somewhere. So this is something that happens a lot in our society. And I think we need to start educating our men to say, we need to have boundaries. You can't just say because you are colleagues, you're friends, and you just feel like you can just put your hand anywhere. No, because if someone did that to your sister, you raise an eyebrow. If they did it to your girlfriend, your wife, you wouldn't like it. So the fact that a woman has gone to work, and we're trying to encourage our female girls, our female child to go to school, get educated, go to work. But we cannot prepare this sort of work environment for them and expect them to be happy. So we need to respect boundaries. It doesn't mean we can't be friendly with them, but don't touch them. Don't say things that they don't solicit for. No, if you can date your colleague, is not the first time. You can date your colleague that is single. Even if they are seeing somebody and you want to hijack the relationship, hijack it and date them. But this idea of you have your own life, but you have your office wife, that you can just, no. We need to raise our boys better so that when they become men, we won't have these issues. So when Akpabio said that he's suing Natasha, suing her for what? Suing her for what exactly? Okay. You guys cannot be trusted. Is it not the same Akpabio that some woman, the former interim head of something in the NDCC,
Niger Delta Ministry,
Niger Delta Commission, didn't that woman say she slapped him? She said, I slapped him to thwart his advances. It's the same Akpabio. He didn't sue the woman. So, it's just you all the time. It's you all the time. We can do better. I saw a video recently. Some people said it's not a new video of a senator making out with a woman in his office in Abuja. But a lot of people are saying it's not a new video, but the video is genuine. This guy will probably be in his late 60s, early 70s, probably married with many wives already. They said he's from Zamfara. He's one of the senators. And I saw the video and I was like, this is what you do in the office when people send you there to represent them, to solicit on their behalf and bring development and dividend of democracy to them in Zamfara. You are there in the office doing daddy and mommy. So these guys, it's almost like they don't even know that their work is already cut out. The world has left us behind.
Okay.
We've missed so many revolutions. And now this IT one that is ongoing, we're still missing out on it. We're busy discussing somebody touched somebody's waist, somebody did. No, there are bigger things we could be doing. But our politicians are not interested. They just want to occupy us with frivolities.
Quite unfortunate. Now, if you are part of this conversation, we'll encourage you to click on the like button and subscribe to our YouTube page. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People Television, and on other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. By the way, we are broadcasting live on Metro SLTV channel 264. Let's take more comments, a few comments from our YouTube page. And okay, before we continue, APC has already abandoned governance. That is coming from Kashu Reagan. Emmanuel Ludume says no politician in Nigeria is better than Peter Obi. Now, the comments made on YouTube are the comments of viewers, not the position of the TV station. Now, sure, let me ask you one question. You understand that even before Natasha was suspended, she had gone to court to secure an injunction stopping the Senate from suspending her. Yeah, the Senate went ahead to suspend her. And as we speak now, she's on suspension without salary, without aids and all of that. So in all of this, does it look like the legislature is also disobeying court orders, just like the executive has been doing? And how does all of that impact on the democracy that we are trying to build in Nigeria?
There's a popular saying in Nigeria, they will say, no be today. It didn't just start. And it didn't start with the Tinubu administration. I hope it ends with the Tinubu administration, but, I can only hope. So it's clear that they went in violation of what the court said. The court clearly said, do not suspend this lawmaker, Natasha. Senator, Apoti. The court told them, but they are saying that we self-regulate. The court cannot tell us what to do. We're above the law. That is exactly what they said. Without saying it, they're saying that, see, also, the National Assembly, we're above the laws of the land. We will do as we please. We self-regulate. Nobody can tell us what to do and what not to do. See, Nigeria is a land of greatness. It's a country that we love our country. It is the people leading it, ruling it, that we don't like. Most of us don't like. So people should not conflict it and say, you hate your country, you talk down your country. We do not like and appreciate the way it is being run. We like the country itself. When you see the flag, when you see some things about Nigeria, it whips up an emotion in you, at least for me. I love the country. But when you see so much impunity go unchallenged, unpunished, how can you say that you're going to disobey the court and suspend her because we can? And since then, what has the court said? And this is why sometimes I look at our judiciary. What do they want to be known for? What do they want to be remembered for? How can they continuously disobey you and you do nothing about it? You would think the judiciary would be upset about that and make examples. Some people have argued for President Tinubu that he has the right to suspend a governor or to declare state of emergency. Yes, you can declare state of emergency, but I don't think he has the right to suspend a governor. He was elected by the people of Rivers State, rightfully or wrongfully. He was elected. President Tinubu didn't elect Fubara, but you just, one full stop and said, oh, Fubara, go away for 6 months. I don't want to see you. I'll bring somebody from Akwa Ibom State or Cross River to come and administer. No, that should never happen. And we have lawyers. We have senior lawyers. How many senior advocates do we have in Nigeria? And that's why some people are starting to call them senior advocate of nonsense, which I don't agree with. But how do you argue with such? We have senior lawyers who would argue that the president has a right to suspend a democratically elected governor who was elected the same way Tinubu was elected. So if Tinubu has an issue with any governor now, he can just say, I'm suspending you. Where does it stop? So any state that Tinubu just looks at the governor and say, I don't like your face, he can say you're suspended. And people will defend it. No. So with Natasha's one, it's not the first. And sadly, it won't be the last. But I am hoping, some people will say I'm being stupid for hoping, but I'm hoping that our judiciary will grow a pair, that it would grow a spine. You can't go to school and study law and wear all these things. You wear wig that makes your head boil. It's uncomfortable. I know lawyers who tell me that thing is hot. You wear those things, you suffer, and you do all those things, and you still let them just walk all over you. For what reason? Because they're building you judges' quarters in Abuja or what? Or because they are giving you money from... I don't know. What exactly do they stand to gain by not standing up for what is right? Regardless of who is involved, just stand up and be seen to be doing the right thing as judiciary. That is what will inspire young people to want to study the profession. You cannot mention Ganifawo in his name in Nigeria today and people will just, sniff at it. He's dead, he's long gone, but his legacy is there. Justice Oputa, people will talk about Justice Oputa. There was a reason why he was selected to lead the Oputa panel. I watched the Oputa panel I was young, but I watched it every single day with my dad, my mom, and my sibling. My brother who was at home, just the last two that were at home at the time. We watched it every night. It was like watching Champions League football. People will talk about Justice Oputa. Children unborn. Then, if you mention Justice Oputa today, they'll say, oh yeah, we know him. Some people might remember that he's somebody's father. But people know him for what he did, what he stood for. It doesn't mean they were perfect men. But most of the time, they were seen to be doing the right thing, upholding justice. But what do we have these days?
All right, thank you very much. So now we'll take more comments before I ask you the very last question, and we'll take concluding thoughts. Vitus Ekwebelem says, Nigerians keep on enjoying poverty and hunger from APC. When the country is ready for good governance, then they will know the right thing to do. Impunity cannot build a nation. And Amico B's founder says, impunity at its peak by National Assembly leadership. Same they did against Senator Abdul Ningi. No be today. Now, sure, one last question before we get to our concluding thoughts. When the issue of Natasha and Akpabio broke out, a lot of people felt that it was the beginning of the end of Godswill Akpabio as Senate president. A lot of people thought that it was going to pull down, you know, this man's career and all of that. But it looks like he is, starting from what transpired, you know, when he was the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs that you made reference to, the fact that he didn't even win an election, you know, the primary election to become a senator. He was contesting the presidential election, and all of a sudden, he also got into the Senate and won the election to become Senate president. So some people felt that the Natasha case was going to bring him down eventually, that it had become one too many. Does it look like he's a cat with 9 lives, and how does that help us to build a strong political culture in Nigeria?
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to say, it seems like the man is a cat with 9 lives. This is Nigeria we're talking about. I want to believe it's a work in progress, because I just don't want to sound negative about everything. I want to believe it's a work in progress, as much as it doesn't look like anything in progress. So, I mean, think about it. This same Akpabio, a professor, has been found guilty of rigging an election in his favor. That was 2019. So the beneficiary of that malpractice is in office. The people who aided and abetted, you know, found guilty. But Akpabio is safe. I knew when this thing started that it wasn't going to pull Akpabio down, this Natasha case. I knew it wasn't going to pull him down. Akpabio is the number 3 citizen in Nigeria. It's not a small office. It's a big deal. The office, not the man, I don't care for him, but that office is a big deal. Number 3 citizen. God forbid something happens to Tinubu and Shetima. He's your president. He is your president. So if his colleagues allow him to fall, they know that's a matter of time before people come for them. Yorubas will say, "Ikutung paujugba ini, uwinla lung pafonyo." So if something happens to your Oga today, you better know that the same can happen to you. It will take less for it to even happen to you. So they would support him. Even from presidency, they will support him to say, if this number 3 guy is taken out because of all these small issues, it's only a matter of time before they start accusing us of everything. People start bringing up evidence against us. So I knew they were going to support him. It was going to be a robust support. And you and I know that our judiciary, they are not at least they don't act like they are independent. Our judiciary are getting houses from the Minister of FCT. Why is he building them houses? Don't they have their own budget? And this is what I keep saying. And they're talking about foreign, sorry, I'm going away from your question. No, they're talking about having FDI, foreign direct investment. But even as a son of the soil, what confidence do I have that if I come and invest in Nigeria and I get into an argument with Wike or FCT as a whole, how am I sure that I will get justice if I sue them? When I know that FCT minister, not with his money, but from FCT budget, is building quarters, is building houses for our judges. So if that man goes to court against me, what chance do I have? Do you understand these things? These things are linked. So when they said, oh, Wike was, FCT were building houses for judges, and some of us questioned it, they said, oh, nothing makes you happy. You people just complain. No, it's linked. You can't tell an Oyinbo man from somewhere or an Arab to come and invest because he's thinking, if I have an issue with these FCT people, the person that is building houses for all their judges, it will win every case. So Akpabio is not, it might still go down. You know, we might, keep chipping at it. Eventually it might fall. But I had a feeling that this was not going to be the one that would take him down. Okay. I didn't think it would be. If he gets in trouble with Tinubu, for instance, it would go. But if you're getting in trouble with someone like Senator Natasha and all of that, and I'm even happy with the amount of support Senator Natasha got. Okay. People really rallied around her, and I've seen a lot of videos here and there, maybe not verified, of people confessing of, how they planned to take her down and all of these things. But I'm happy that Nigerians stood up for her and they spoke loudly for that woman.
Sure. I was going to ask you about support, especially with the fact that it was even the men folk that supported Natasha the more, Apart from Obi Ezekwesili and Aisha Yesufu, no other woman was very prominent, was in the front line fighting for Natasha. What was responsible? Is it because women don't support each other or what?
Yeah, there's something they say, women supporting women. Unfortunately, we didn't see that. Okay. And all this toxic feminist. I love feminists, though. I have no issues with feminism, but we have a sect, You know, even in Christianity, we have them. In Islam, they have them. We have this sect of toxic feminists on Nigerian Twitter. At least I use Twitter. That's the only one I use. They're there. You will see them everywhere. They'll be talking. Somebody will say they cook for their husband. They will get upset on the person's behalf. Why are you cooking for your husband at 5 a.m.? How's that your business? Now, when Natasha was going through what she was going through, some of those popular handles, I kept an eye on what they were doing. In fact, I followed them and I put on notification to see if they would tweet about it and support Natasha. Nothing from them. And you saw people like Ireti Kingibe. You saw some of these women, Florence Itagiwa came back. I don't know where they wheeled her out from. And they came and they just took down on Senator Natasha completely. It was such a heart-wrenching interview, especially the one with Ireti Kingibe.
Okay.
No, Ireti Kingibe especially. She kept calling her my daughter. She's young enough to be my daughter. She's your colleague. Forget this. Because when they set the ground, she's young enough to be my daughter, I will speak like a mother. So people will start thinking, okay, so as a mother, you would speak, you will speak the truth. Even if you don't support her, it's like, tough love from a mother. No, speak as a colleague. There are only four women out of 109 senators. We have only 4. And you could not even rally around the lady.
We even saw women who were protesting against her somewhere in Akwa Ibom.
No, those ones are hungry people. Those ones are hungry people. Those ones don't count. I mean, anybody knew that was just nonsense. I didn't take those ones serious. Some of them didn't even. They asked them, "What are you complaining?" They said, "Oh, we don't know." They just told.
Some of them had the placards turned upside down.
Exactly. Those are hungry people. You see, when they say they've weaponized poverty, there's a reason why they weaponize poverty. They weaponize it so that anytime they need people like that, they can give them 5,000 naira for a day. And they will go and do anything they ask them to do. Carry placard, just say we support this person, we oppose it. I mean, in Nigeria, we're now saying counter-protest. People will say they want to protest so that lives of majority of Nigerians will be better. And some people will come out and say counter-protest.
All right, thank you very much. So it's been a very interesting conversation. Can we have your concluding thoughts on any of those major topics that we talked about this evening?
Well, thank you for having me again. I'll conclude by saying the Pope, I hope that when he speaks to President Tinubu, they discuss the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. It's not, I know some people will say everybody is being killed and all of that, but Christians in the Middle Belt are being targeted. They are being wiped out. In 50, 100 years, if we're not careful, those places would have been renamed. And they will have lost a big chunk of their history, the Christians in the Middle Belt. So I hope that the Pope, having served in Nigeria, in Nasarawa, which is part of North Central anyway, so would be able to speak to President Tinubu, and something needs to be done to stem this tide. We need our people alive. We can't just be killing people because they are Christians or they don't practice the same sort of faith as you. So Pope, use the Chicago connection. You're both Chicago old boys. Please use that Chicago language to speak to him and let President Tinubu come back home with new vigor, to tackle this insurgency. Also, what did we discuss? We talked about the PDP, LP, APC, disgruntled member of APC, forming a coalition. Like I said earlier, I'm just going to say it again. They don't have time. They need to do what they need to do quickly. They need to decide who is going to be the presidential candidate. This is not the time to be saying we're going to have open primaries. It will be infiltrated. It would lead to chaos. So choose who's going to run from the South. Support the person. I think it should be Peter Obi, based on what he did the last time. 6 million votes. Can't be sniffed at. So consolidate power, get people from everywhere. If you can get Kwakwanso in, get NNPP in, get everybody. You need all the help you can get. So let them dislodge this APC. The suffering is too much. Not because I just hate APC for hating them. If APC was in power and things were going well, I would have no issues. But the people are hungry. Ebiong power, as Tinubu was told in Lagos, Ebiong power genuinely, and it's affecting even people in the Western world. The amount of demand we get these days is crazy. So, coalition, get to work, be quick. And the people that want to imprison those who don't vote is going to lead to more voter apathy. You can't force people to vote. You can pass it to law yesterday. It doesn't mean people will vote. If they don't want to vote, they won't vote. And they will give you evidence of where they were threatened to say, if you come out, we'll do this to you. If you don't want to vote for this person, don't come out. So if you tell me, if you don't vote for A, don't come out. then I will tell the court I was going to go and vote for B. But look at the video. I was recording this in front of my house. Somebody said with guns and cutlasses, if I come out, I'll be injured. So I didn't come out. So what are they going to do? It's a waste of everybody's time and money. And the people coming to the UK to tell us what President Tinubu has done, we don't need them to come to the UK or London. We have internet, we have phone, we have computers. We can see what he has done. We can see what he's doing. It might pay off in 20 years' time, like they told us Buhari's own will pay off. But right now, as of today, as we speak to you, it's not working. So they need to do a 180 and start doing the opposite of everything they're doing right now. Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Show. This is where we end the show. This is the Diaspora Perspective Show, where we discuss different critical political issues, governance and economic and development issues in Nigeria. I've been speaking with Show. Show is an IT expert with interest in international relations and geopolitics. He joins us from Kent in the UK. Now, this show comes up every Saturday from the hours of 9 to 11 p.m. Do well to join us. And like I said, we are broadcasting live on Metro SLTV channel 264. You can also click on the subscription button. On YouTube, we are Voice of the People Television, and on other social media platforms, we are VOP TV Live. Thank you very much, Show, for coming to Diaspora Perspectives.
Thank you, Chukuma.
All right. Now, this is where we have to end this show. I am Chukuma Okoro. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.